Monday, September 30th, 2024. And again, the View sort of jumps the gun by a day to talk about the upcoming vice presidential debate. Like, we could talk about that tomorrow. Um, there was a giant hurricane over the weekend that went through a huge swath of the United States, um, and caused a lot of destruction and a lot of death. And odd, because it was inland. This is Western North Carolina. This is mountains. This is, the Blue Ridge Mountains, Appalachia. This is inland, mountainous inland area that is affected by a hurricane. If that isn't some sort of like giant red flag for climate change, I don't know what is. But I guess the View doesn't want to talk about that. Anyway, if you've seen any of the pictures, the devastation is really awful in what has been wiped out, specifically in these small rural areas. But of course, FEMA is on the ground. The federal government is taking care of the cleanup, and will help with the rebuild. And you're not going to hear about that, about all of the heroism that FEMA is going to be doing, and you won't even notice when Donald Trump just takes FEMA away until it's needed again. Just like when he threw away the pandemic playbook and he needed it, but he didn't have it and he didn't want to use it. He didn't want to use it because Obama wrote it, or Obama's team wrote it. So, like, there is a correlation here between something that's happening very real in destroying these people's lives from this hurricane to policy that is intended, by one of the candidates for president, that would leave them with nothing, no help whatsoever. But I guess we don't want to talk about that. So we'll talk about we'll chatter on about a debate that hasn't happened yet, and it was fascinating. Whoopi, by the way, was salty today. She said she didn't feel good. You could tell she didn't feel good. Woof, she was having none of it. But so Amy Farrah Griffin is like, Tim Walz needs to look statesmanly. He needs to show that he can be president. And then Sarah Haynes is like, I don't need statesmanship. I want someone I can trust. Everybody's just going to say you can't trust either side. So that doesn't play overly well. Whoopi's like, I just want facts. I just want facts. And I will agree with her here in that when CBS says they're not going to do any fact checking live, that's a bullshit response. That's being afraid of Donald Trump and his MAGA crowd, because it isn't about fact checking every little thing. It's exactly what ABC did. You have a list of things, the kind of bullshit stuff he's going to probably say, and you can have documentation to say, sir, that's not correct. Like, there is no place in this country where we have abortions after birth. Like, it's not that difficult to say those things. So this is shitty, crappy journalistic move on CBS News's part. So in that sense, I think that's a problem with the setup and with the journalistic integrity of the network sponsoring it. But then Anna Navarro's like, I want you to get in the dirt and I want you to show he's a liar. And Sonny Hostin is like, I want you to bring out Project 2025 and tie him to the things that he said. And the problem is, this is all coming from people, none of whom run a political campaign, or run for office. But the problem is, they have to do all of those things. There are so many boxes to have to tick off through a debate. And ultimately, the consequence of this isn't that much. Anna Navarro made this big point about how Dan Quayle got his ass handed to him in his VP debate, but that ticket still won. And she said, yeah, everybody thought he was stupid. Well, we all think JD Vance is stupid, but JD Vance is stupid and dangerous. So it's like, I hate this because they'll talk about the debate again tomorrow. It's like, you could have saved this for tomorrow. The debate isn't happening until tomorrow. So it's a little frustrating how much they do debate hype on this program. But I mean, everybody's that's watching is going to be looking for something else, and because we live in an internet age and a TikTok age and an attention span of this big, it is unfortunately those um, sort of little quips and small moments that will get highlighted and put on the reel. The unfortunate thing about the presidential debate is Kamala Harris cleaned his fucking clock in that debate, but the news cycle for a week was about Haitians eating cats and dogs. We still haven't stopped talking about it. It will be brought up in the next debate, um, which is so fucking frustrating, because we'll never get to issues. We're going to talk about the issues that they're creating in their campaign instead of the actual issues that need to be solved in the country. But one of the issues that needs to be solved in this country is you fucking lying every time you open your mouth. So um, that in itself should be addressed in the whole, as opposed to let's go through this lie by lie, which is the perfect segue to the next hot topic, which is all of the lies that Donald Trump told to this weekend in his rallies. He has taken to calling Kamala Harris mentally ill, which is highly offensive. She is not mentally ill. And I did appreciate Anna Navarro's passion about it. Drives me crazy though when someone says, I have a brother or I have a child or you don't need to have someone that directly in your life to feel that passionately about not using someone else's life condition as a weapon against them, or as anyone's life condition as a weapon against someone else who isn't in that condition. Um, it's like, the whole thing when you're the sort of racial appropriation and that kind of thing. And this is turning it around in another way, and using those stereotypes and that kind of insult against someone, which is just, oh, I have to decline this. What has happened? Am I still recording? Okay. My phone rang and all of a sudden my screen went all blank. So anyway, I think you get my point. You can't, it's now taking this sort of appropriation of something that you want to attach negatively towards people and put it on someone that actually doesn't apply to, but thereby you're demonizing everyone who does have this thing that you have a negative connotation toward. So it's like, it's evil on so many levels. It's not only a lie, it's demonizing people that you feel are less worthy. And he does this over and over again with everybody because he thinks everybody's less worthy. Um, and I don't even want to get into all the lies that he told this weekend because it doesn't really matter. I think the biggest problem is that most of the people that are going to vote for him aren't even paying attention. They don't even care. They'll say, I don't really care for him. I don't really, care for his words or how he speaks. Or they'll say that they don't really like him. Excuse me. But they're going to vote for him. And usually they're afraid of what she's going to do. It's this whole decades long sort of campaign to demonize the Democrats, that the Democrats are always going to ruin the country, although the country's never been ruined under Democrat control. So I don't see why people still buy this argument, other than the fact that they're brainwashed and maybe dumb, including some of my relatives. who I don't know why I still engage. But anyway, it's an uphill battle, and part of that is, for the last 50 years, there's just been a giant campaign from the Republicans to take away education and healthcare. I've said this for decades. They want to keep them dumb, keep them sick, and what's the other one? Keep them dumb, keep them sick, keep them poor, and then tell them that they are the only ones that can fix their problems while demonizing any other group that they possibly can. It used to be gays, and now it's immigrants. It used to be Black people, and now it's immigrants. They're Black and brown, but it's always based on some sort of bigotry, which goes to the whole thing about I don't like talking about the guests, but the book that Dana Bash wrote that she was hawking today on the show about how it's because they lost the Civil War. We've never gotten over um, the racism of slavery and the South losing the Civil War. It's why that Confederate flag, although that flag that they use as the Confederate flag was not the Confederate flag of the actual Confederacy, it comes to symbolize the Confederacy, but it symbolizes um, slavery and bigotry and racism and hatred. So it's like, and they don't believe that. They think it's part of their history, right? Because part of your history is racism and hatred and bigotry and slavery. Like I don't. They're so fucking dense. But there's been this giant campaign about you know fucking with our education and one of Donald Trump's plans, he keeps saying it over and over again. He wants to get rid of the Department of Education, the federal Department of Education. No, that is one thing that you should, as an American, be able to count on, that no matter where you live, and we do a terrible job of it because we localize all of the funding for it, we should be able to say that no matter where you live in this country, you should be able to get a quality public education that's safe. Like that to me is like the bedrock of a civil society, and it's one of the things that the Republicans have clawed away over decades and are trying to now just fundamentally unravel it. This whole voucher system is just take all of your public money and put it into a private school, which defunds the public education for the rest of the people that that won't get into the private school because of, again, bigotry, racism, and just elitism. Anyway, the whole thing's exhausting. Um, it and I was excited about this campaign because it was like, okay, this is going to be a short um, election cycle because Harris only came in the summer. But even now, like, you can't keep up that enthusiasm momentum against this kind of bullshit. So the whole thing is really frustrating. Some states have started to vote already, and uh, I don't know. I don't know where we go. I just feel like I don't understand how polls are this close, and I know I don't believe in polls. I really don't. But I can't believe that there's that many people in this country that are still behind that fucking guy and his shitty running mate. I will say that's been a plus for us because more people hate him um, than are that are willing to put up with Trump. Is that the right? Am I saying that right? You know what I mean. Um, he's a drag on the ticket, which is helpful to us. But man, it just shouldn't be this fucking hard. Um, so anyway, it's Monday. I'm supposed to be more hopeful or something. I don't know. Fuck's supposed to be. It's Monday.